my goodness, there you have it. That is the coolest thing I have seen in a while. The USA Northeast Region Pack just dropped for Cities Skylines 2, and it's a game changer for my Boston-inspired city of Fort John. Today we're transforming its inner city districts with magnificent classical buildings from this new pack. Lots of much needed detailing and some downtown parks. So let's dive straight in. Alright, so I'm gonna do my best at providing a super quick, brief overview of the contents of this pack, but if you already know what it contains, I'm gonna leave a timestamp on the screen so that you can skip ahead. The pack contains a total of 6 new zones, which is high density residential that you will see here, medium density residential, medium density row house residential, a pretty beefy mixed use zone as well, so technically residential as well, a slightly smaller low density commercial zone, and then a pretty massive high density office zone. And of course we've got some cool service buildings, all of which are upgradable, and we've got some truly awesome, very unique signature buildings. Now the pack has been a collaborative effort by Bad Peanut, Squigglehausen, Darf, Geese, Grooney, King Leno, Smileys, and Snickledigit. We might as well kick off with the signature buildings, starting with this high-density office, the Imperial Estate building. And yeah, just look at this. It's absolutely huge. I'm pretty sure this is based on a real skyscraper project that was planned shortly before the stock market crash in New York, and thus we never really got to see it, but I think a small-scale version of it actually exists in the city today. Moving on, we have a high-density housing building, the Frankfort Mansard building with 192 households and adding 21 attractiveness, as well as a 5% citywide attractiveness bonus and a +2 well-being within 1 kilometer. So this one really just seems to elevate the entire area wherever it's placed, and it makes sense given the fantastic architecture. Moving on, we have the residential low signature building, the Atkin Palmer Manor, which also adds a bit of well-being, and this is just a beautiful piece of architecture. We finish off with 2 commercial high-density signature buildings. I'm not going to try and pronounce that, that sounds too Dutch. It's not going to work out. But the high-density commercial, so it has plenty of workplaces, and it adds +5 to well-being within 1.5 kilometers and 1% attractiveness citywide. So if you start combining these beautiful signature buildings, they should affect the surrounding area quite a bit with all the bonuses added up, especially as far as tourism goes. Now the last one is a little more bland in architecture, but I really like it, and I think it has more like general applicability, and it's the Northeastern Inn. So it's a motel, and it just provides a bunch of bonuses to your city, so a great addition as well. Let's move on to high and density residential, something that I think a lot of you are waiting for with this pack, and it really doesn't disappoint. So what I've done here is I've just kind of ordered them by the zoning width. So this is a 2 by something, 3 by something, 4 by something, and then I've just placed the level 1, the level 3, and the level 5 versions, because they mainly level up by increasing in height and of course the amount of households as well. Some of them do get a little more fancy, smaller architectural details and more ornaments and stuff like that, which is also a great addition. But yeah, I'm just gonna fly around so you guys can take this all in. These can obviously be used in many East Coast cities, but they also do demand certain, level of density in your downtown cores. But even if you're building something that isn't as dense and isn't exactly Manhattan, then some of the level 1s here are going to fit into many American cities. I can imagine you're building a smaller city where this is the sole quote-unquote skyscraper in your city maybe. Let's move on to medium density residential. These are fantastic as they're gonna blend in with the vanilla North American theme very well as well. And I've kind of done the same here, level 1 through 5. And we see the same trend. We've got mainly height increases, and then sometimes architectural details are also changed just to make the buildings look a little more fancy. And something I like, and we'll see this in the other zones, some of the other zones of the pack as well, is that the creators have chosen to mix in a bit of modern redevelopment as well. I think this is really welcome because you'll be able to combine this with some of the medium density from the Chinese themed pack, or with the urban promenade stuff, and you can really start to diversify your redevelopment districts. All right, let's lower the density once more. We've got a row house theme, and it is beautiful. There's a ton of variation in the buildings here, which I really like. So if you're up for grabbing developer mode or maybe the find it mod and manually placing these to construct your row house zones, then you've got a ton of flexibility. Once again, as they level up, they become more dense, they have more households, and usually more details are added. Let's move on to mixed use. So these are basically apartment buildings with storefronts at the very bottom level. And we see the same thing. We see the addition of some architectural details in this place. It gets this glass facade panel here, and then of course increases in density. And some of these become quite tall and dense actually, like this one, which looks to be like 7, 8, or 9 stories tall. And the same can be said for these as well. Interestingly, there's quite a few buildings here that are 6 tiles wide, which I think is really nice. We don't always have that many of those. And once again, we've got some modern stuff, some stuff you can use for redeveloping an old port area or a modern infill or whatever you want, kind of mixed in here as well, which is just a great addition. We've got some modern stuff here as well, and we'll just take a look at some of these. Beautiful coloring as well, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, they're fully recolorable. So if you got the recolor mod, you can really go ham to design the look you want. And this one it's very, very generic. And, you know, I love all the special looking stuff, but I'm also very happy we just get some generic stuff as well. It's just gonna make city building so much more fun. This one is nice as well. Moving on to a slightly smaller theme, we actually get a low density commercial theme as well, or zoning theme, which I really didn't expect in this pack. But these are pretty cool. Like this one looks like a repurposed warehouse even, or it even looks like you've got actual like light manufacturing on top, which I think is really cool. So I can really imagine mixing these into some of my warehouse districts where I already use a bit of commercial stuff. These are great as well. These don't have that many changes as they level up, as you guys can probably see. Some props are changed and some details are changed, but otherwise they maintain the same height. This building is really cool as well. As it reaches its max level of 5, it gets a little extra spice added here to make it more interesting, but it's already quite beautiful. Like this one as well, we've once again got this light manufacturing industry going with this commercial asset, which is just super, super welcome. And then these, I mean, these are small and can be squeezed in everywhere, and you can just add these to any US themed city, and maybe even beyond that if you're a bit creative. All right, let's move on to high density offices. And just wow, in combination with the high density residential, you really got yourself a New York pack going here. I don't even know where to start. Let's just start with these big boys. I think the level up progression here is pretty obvious, but man, these look great. They've got that real New York 30s building boom vibe. The same can be said for this one. It's sort of got the same like overall aesthetic, but it's just in a more condensed format, which I really like. So you can use many different versions of the same building within your build, and it's not all gonna look the same because they obviously have different details. I really love this building as well. I think this level 5 building is fantastic. It's like the addition of the clock tower just makes a huge difference. We've got some modern stuff as well. I don't know if this actually is meant to replicate a modern building or if it's just one of the 30s or 40s or 50s constructions that just had a very, very modern look. Because I know there are buildings that sort of have this architecture that are a lot older than you'd imagine. So I guess it's up to us then. We decide whether this is a redevelopment or actually just a forward-thinking architecture of the past. And then I'm a complete sucker for red bricks mixed with these white stones. It's just oof, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stuff. These as well, you guys can see as they level up 1 through 3 through 5, extra height is added. And then these are my favorites, especially this level 5 here. The way the roofing is made with this, it looks like copper almost. It's just a beautiful addition, and I will be using this today in Fort John. That's like, this is the building I know I'm gonna use. Everything else is just up for grabs, and we'll see what we figure out, but I'm gonna use this one. Ooh, let's get to the service buildings. These are beautiful and they are pretty high density, which is awesome. We've got the elementary school here with 1,200 student capacity and a beautiful East Coast inspired architecture. It's got a single upgrade, which is the extension floors, increasing capacity by 300, and of course it makes it taller, which is fantastic. And then by extension, we have the Northeast themed high school. We've got an 800 student capacity, which is upgradable with 500 additional capacity, and 2 very sizable extensions added here. So it's got a better fit for like a real inner city vibe with the extensions added. Let's move on to the small clinic with a 230 patient capacity, 6 potential ambulances to use, and a single upgrade adding 120 additional capacity. Oh, it's a beautiful upgrade. Kind of got the same upgrade vibe as for the high school. Now we've just gotten an amazing hospital from the Southwest pack, and now we get one more, and this one is just, yeah, Empire State architecture if I've ever seen it. It kind of has the same overall, you know, architectural lines as the tower over here. So beautiful, a little funny, a 350 patient capacity, and this one had 230 base. Not that it matters too much. If there's one thing this does have though, it's 20 ambulances, which is just fantastic. And of course it's a better long-term investment because you can upgrade it pretty extensively. So we can add a specialized treatment ward giving 180 extra capacity. Beautiful addition as well. Then we can add the trauma center giving 300 extra capacity, and it's now got this kind of this stepped look, which I think is just fantastic. It makes it a very, very interesting building to look at. And then to kind of round it off, we can add in a helipad, adding a medical helicopter, as well as 20 additional patient capacity. Yank. And where was this added? On the backside. Let's move on to a funny addition. We've got a northeast water tower, and it's got some space age architecture as well. Now, something I really love about about this building is that you can add some aesthetic upgrades that actually provide bonuses. So we can add sunglasses to the front here, which adds 1+ entertainment, which I guess makes sense. Then we can add a welcome sign, adding 1% attractiveness citywide, which is added to this side. And then we can add a don't waste water sign, adding additional attractiveness back here. We get a northeastern firehouse, and what I really, really enjoy about this building is that it doesn't look that much like a firehouse. It looks like a row house, and it fits. It has the same footprint as a small row house as well. So obviously it's a pretty low capacity thing with just a single fire engine at bay, but it's just awesome having these, having these options. It's just perfect so that you can really just kind of grab what you need for a specific situation, or if you just want a specific aesthetic and don't care too much about the functionality. Now the Big Brother version is the fire headquarters. Beautiful, beautiful building as well. It's got 8 vehicles, and look at these docks here, or these bays. Beautiful work. It's gonna be so cool to see fire engines spawn out of this one. Now 150 employees. That's a lot, but I actually don't know what it is for the other fire stations. So that just sounds like a lot. It's gonna be pretty expensive at least, because we always get a surprise when you look at the initial cost, then you add the building and the wages keep adding up. But oh well. We can add a helipad to this one, giving us an awesome fire helicopter. And just look at the textures here on the roof, and like even the textures on the stairs here. And this opening, beautiful stuff. Moving on to being tough on crime, we have the Northeast Police Station with 5 vehicles available. We can add an upgrade, adding 50 extra jail capacity. And this extension looks really old, and I like that it doesn't have the exact same brick surface as the base building. That's a bit of interest. Now it has a big sister as well, the Northeast Police Headquarters with 14 cars and 200 arrested criminals capacity. 120 employees for this one, so it's gonna end up being pretty expensive as well. And then awkwardly, I can't upgrade it with the helipad because I haven't actually bought that. So oh, there it is, police headquarters. I need to buy some of this stuff. Anyways, you can add a helipad right up here, adding the awesome police helicopter. Once again, the texturing here is just out of this world. This game can look really, really beautiful when zoomed really, really close, which I think is quite a thing considering how far out you can zoom. I think this is going to be so much fun, but probably also lead to some dramatic changes, not just in the aesthetic of the city, but also the demographics of some of these downtown areas as far as like residents and jobs goes. And I think the first thing we're going to do is construct the most famous skyscraper in all of Fort John. Not the tallest one, but one that really symbolizes the city, one that was built during its heyday many, many years ago. So what we're gonna do as a slightly controversial measure, perhaps, is we're going to demolish this dense block here between Bay Road, Barlow Street, and this little alley. And we're just gonna demolish this part. I think that's all we need. And then I've got a bit of an idea that is going to seem pretty wacky up front, but hopefully you guys will follow along. So what I'm doing here is I'm filtering for the level 5 version of this beautiful skyscraper, the one I know I want to use. But we're gonna use a custom configuration of this where it has 2 spires instead of just the one. Yeah, okay. So to start off, we're gonna grab the level 1 version, not of this building. This is the one I just showed, where it gets the dome or the tower when it's level 5. We're gonna use this level 1 version instead, because this building is slightly lower and doesn't get as dramatic architectural changes as it levels up. So we're gonna grab the level 1 version here, and we're gonna place that in the very center of this block, something like this. Then we're gonna grab the level 5 versions we just had a look at, and we're going to place 2 of these on either side, stitch them together with a bit of a setback to kind of fit the angled Bay Road here. Yeah, let's just try this out and see how it works. I'm gonna bring it back to around here on either side. I am pretty confident there's just about enough space on this block here, and we'll just place the next one, and then we're just going to assess how this looks. Wow, we're not quite done tweaking things just yet, but I can already say with confidence that I am keeping this building. That is just, yeah, I don't know, that looks fantastic. I'm gonna be not humble here. I think this looks amazing. Now let's see, if we go to the level 1s again, I'm curious whether we can make it even cooler by actually using the level 1 versions of the 2 towers we have on either side here. Because the building it's not super tailored to the bend in Bay Road and the, general shape of this block, which isn't square at all. So maybe if we create an additional setback on either tower by adding one more of these on either side and just trying to stitch that together with the center building. So I'll just do one right here, then we're gonna move over to this side, and we'll see if we can do the same thing and just stitch these together and make it look somewhat symmetrical. This is tricky. Of course, we need to make sure this one carries the same color, so we're just gonna make that white. And let's do another little reassessment. And I mean, it's not perfect, you know, working with square buildings on uneven blocks is also always a bit of a challenge, but I think this added even more, and it created this extra setback, as you guys can see, in the architecture, which I really do enjoy. We're not gonna do a ton of detailing, but we are gonna spend a bit of time using better Bulldozer to just get rid of some of these fences and some of the, I think there are a few like trash can or garbage collection props, but I can't actually find them, and looks like there's an entrance here, which is really quite cool. Let's see how it looks back here. That does look a little better, and without any pain, perfectly. And the small, super narrow alley still cuts through here, which is super cool. But this little change did reveal some of these smaller elements that I'm just gonna make sure we get rid of. I don't think they make a whole lot of sense. And then I think we're actually just gonna wrap up by painting the entire block with a specific surface. So let's move into surfaces. We're gonna move into tiles. We're going to say enable the area bucket. The only boundary I need is the roads, basically. And then I'm just going to increase the size so that I can, as you guys can see, I can easily colorize the entire block here. And we're going to grab something fancy. I imagine we'd have something fancy in place with a development like this. I think we can always change that, but generally speaking, I really think that fits. If you know what the name and story behind this beautiful landmark is, then please let me know in the comments, because I don't. So I'm gonna need some suggestions to actually get this named. And I think a development like this needs like a recognizable name. I don't want it to be 258 Bay Road. Now, we did demolish 3 residential towers to accommodate the new landmark. So I think we need to compensate for that. And something that I'm starting to notice is that the skyline seems to end a little abruptly as we move further inlands here alongside the bay. So what I'm thinking is that I'm going to remove some of the vanilla buildings here that they look all right, but we can definitely make it look a little nicer. We've got a couple of row house buildings here and some lower density stuff that I think we can replace. And I want to replace it with something that's a little taller, maybe not quite as tall as this one, but I want to taper off the skyline a little more. I think that makes sense given the overall density here in Fort John. So let's start with some mixed buildings. We can go 3 wide here, it seems. Yes, I think that is gonna fit. And then let's jump into level 5 and see if we can get something with a bit of height on it. I mean, it's better than what we had before, so and it's a beautiful building, so I'm inclined to just use this one actually, at least for now. And then we are still 3 wide over here, but in this case I think we're gonna go for residential. I don't know if level 5 is gonna be too much. I don't actually think. I think this one is actually a really good fit. So let's grab this one and see if we can just squeeze it in between these two. And it seems like we can get a near perfect alignment. Not really super happy with the brick coloring, so I'm gonna steal the color palette from this one. And okay, we're making that a little brighter. Like this, and potentially gonna make this a little brighter as well. Just like that. We might as well get rid of this EU mixed and replace it with this 2x4 fully residential building that kind of fits the architectural style out here a little better. It also has some nice trees and props out front, which is nice. I don't mind the setback compared to the building next to it. I think that adds a bit of variety as well. And while we are out here in Bay's End, you guys might have noticed that there used to be a small school here, but now it's gone. I did a little mod list cleanup to try and simplify things a bit, especially as I'm starting to provide save games with the full mod list over on Patreon. But it does mean that we need to build a new school here, I think. And the reason I'm clearing out a bit more of the block is that I'm obviously going to use the new elementary school from the Northeast pack. So let's just get rid of some of the stuff here. and open the school menu and grab the beautiful Northeast Elementary. Now it is a pretty sizable building, but I'm actually hopeful I can fit 2 of these in here, because if you guys remember the upgrade, it adds extra floors. So we might not have as severe roof conflicts as we would otherwise have when splicing 2 of these together. I shouldn't explain it, I should just do it. That's gonna make a lot more sense. So the first one is placed, and then the second building is going to angle Madison Street, and I'm gonna see if I can align as perfectly as possible on the corner right here. Yank. And then the point I was trying to make is that if we grab this version here facing Garnet Street and we add the upgrade, then that kind of clears out the roofing conflict and makes things look pretty nice. Actually, it looks a lot better tailored to this block here. I keep saying that, but you guys know what I mean. I'm gonna remove, I think, pretty much all of the sub elements, because not all of them. I did push it pretty far out onto the road here, and the surfacing is looking a little odd. I think I'm just gonna let it stay for now and add a few more trees. Actually, let's just recolor the whole thing with something nice. The whole block could be red. Yoink. That looks pretty nice, and then we'll just add some planters with some major trees, I think. Let's just add a few of these flower beds so that we can squeeze in some big, nice oak trees. Maybe we shouldn't use the oaks, actually. They're awesome, they would fit, but they kind of take away from the lot as well, because they take up so much space. So, grabbing maybe the hickory. It's a big tree as well, but it isn't quite as thick. So and they have these beautiful fall colors. This was also quite a capacity upgrade for what used to be here, because the base version has the 1200 and now this one has 1500 due to the upgrade. And I'm thinking that to keep things simple, this is the base and elementary school. Both of these. And now we're gonna tour some of the most expensive real estate in Massachusetts, at least when it comes to apartments and condos. And it's not like it's super easy to replace, because I think we did a pretty good initial job of placing this when we built out the downtown. But there are a few additional buildings from the Northeast pack that we need to place alongside this stretch of road. One of them being one of the high-density residential signature buildings. I mean, just look at this building. I have to place this. I have to. And I have to place it on a corner lot facing Bay Road, I think. Right here. Now, I do really love this level 5 vanilla building we've placed. So I'm hoping we can kind of just repurpose this somewhere else. There is a bit of space here alongside Aspen Street that is fairly low density. Let's just see if we can just grab this one, we'll move it, and then just fly him across the country. Whoop! Something like this, maybe. And let's see, we'll have to kind of move it into place, and it might look a little odd due to the terraforming that's gonna happen here. I think this looks all right. And over here, oh yeah, things are getting a little tricky. So if we remove this building and then try and add in an additional node here, I'm so happy I have Anarchy, so I can do this without having to remodel the whole thing. We'll turn this segment into a key, and then we'll remove this little road, and surprisingly this guy still has road access, so perfect. And that's a good repurpose, and it's 232 wealthy people with 15 dogs. So I'd rather not just demolish that. I know that's kind of odd saying when I just cleared and whatever. Let's get the signature building in place, the Frankfurt Mansard building. And then for good measure, let's just replace this vanilla mixed use right next to the fantastic building with something that's probably just a little more fitting from the new pack. So still a mixed use corner lot, but yeah, a little more fancy looking. And I guess we could just make sure we bring this a little closer. And actually this one is a vanilla building as well. I don't know if you've seen it before. It's a North American high density commercial building. There are some gems in there if you go looking for it. And I actually think this one is pretty nice looking. And we can actually recolor this bad boy, which I think I might want to do. It has a really stark red currently. So maybe something like this. It kind of fits in with some of these French buildings and these vanilla buildings that I've just colorized as quote-unquote Parisian buildings quite nicely. It doesn't look as dramatic now. It kind of stuck out a little bit before. I may change that, but whoa, this is just a great addition. And now we have these two. I mean, this is very much a signature building, not just in-game terms, but you know, in the actual skyline. And we have this, which is almost a custom signature building by now. I really think this adds something, especially when we have the modern developments poking through as well. And if you guys recall, we actually have a big empty space right here in downtown that I just haven't really known what to do with. But I think we should just place some of these new buildings here. So potentially a bit of mixed use, northeast, sorry, and a level 5, and we've got some pretty sizable buildings, especially if we go by the 6x4. We've got these new modern ones. There should be a corner version that has some stuff on the side. There is right here. We'll just disable snapping and get that as close to the corner lot as we possibly can. Can we actually fit two? We might be able to, and we'll just try and kind of stitch that in so that we have a modern development right here. And there's a bit of space back here as well. It's getting a little tight, so it's probably only going to be a 2x something, or a residential perhaps. This I think is more like it, so we can just kind of align that. And let's not act like adding a bit of surface parking is beneath us. It certainly isn't. So when we've got a spot like this, we'll fill some of that in. Another complex redevelopment I want to try and tackle with this pack is the central train station here in Fort John. So for the longest time, we've used these 3 signature buildings. But as you guys can see, noise pollution is quite an issue here. And I think it affects the amounts of households we're seeing here. Even though they are happy, they are wealthy, I imagine this does cause some sort of issue. And if anything, it's kind of annoying to look at the graphic. So let's see if we can just redevelop the buildings here next to the train station. There was a specific office building, I think it was, that I wanted to use that had like a clock tower as well. No, not one of these massive ones. Let's see if I can find this one right here. As we can see, as soon as we jump to level 5, the clock tower in the center there is added, and I just think that is a super cool addition. So what I want to do is kind of try and align it so that it's perfectly aligned next to this little park. To make the station complex even more built up, I'm gonna attempt to use one of these really cool new buildings that, as I mentioned in the showcase, has this type of architecture where you can really decide for yourself whether it's a modern development or whether it's actually just an old building that was a bit ahead of its time, basically architecturally. So I think we're gonna try and see if we can make that the base of this skyscraper. And I'm just gonna colorize it as bright as I can to sort of match, and then let's just see how that looks. I think it kind of works, but it could be even more bulky and maybe have a better connection to the signature building we're using right here next to it. So let's give that a go. I don't want to encroach on the actual train tracks. But let's just try and add this building as well to get an even more interesting shape. And then maybe grab the level 2 version, which is even lower, and see if we can just squeeze that in right here and kind of bridge that connection to the old main station building as well. Just like this. Then, of course, I'll try and Make sure we've got sort of the same colors going on, although the skyscraper does seem to be a bit too bright. So I'm just gonna, yeah, something like this. It's starting to look the part now. It's a pretty crazy complex by now, but I think we see this quite a lot with major train stations. It's the same in Boston as well, where we are taking some loose inspiration. So I imagine that there's like a massive mall here or something and plenty of offices. Okay, so a new wacky idea. How about a sky bridge between the office and mall complex here at the station and this high-density residential tower? I think yes. Let's see. Okay, so this is a 5x3 high-density building, and I may want something that's a little different. So we go 5x3 high-density residential. Let's see. So I think, yeah, this is the building, and there's this version looks quite a bit more modern. So I'm inclined to actually just try and place this one instead and utilize that one. Actually, we look at that. That is a nice little architectural feature that they decided to add a brick surface and, you know, a bit of a new angle to this building. I am dead serious. We're gonna keep it like this. I think that looks super interesting. And I don't mind having buildings spliced together, obviously. Because for realism purposes, there are too few households in all these towers, and there are too few, you know, jobs in all these towers as well. So it's only making it a little more realistic as far as actual job count and people living here, that we have some buildings spliced together. And I do actually really enjoy this look. I may want to make parts of this building a little brighter, maybe just like that. I think that's fine. Okay, so the simple way of doing this is grabbing the, let's see, it's probably just grabbing the covered pedestrian bridge and then finding a suitable height. And let's see, there's like a platform here almost. So maybe we can utilize that quote-unquote platform as the place where we branch out from. I think we're gonna do just that. And then I haven't even checked if that's gonna... Yeah, it's a decent spot as well on the other side of the building, so I don't really mind. Let's try this. Let's just have a look. It's all right. I certainly need to like raise it a little bit over here, but that should be a fairly simple task. Finding these nodes and just raising that just like this, I think. Now, pathing is pretty flexible in this game, so we should actually be able to make this functional by pretty much just connecting it to ground level and then just moving through some of these buildings. It may cause pathing issues, so that's really something to be aware of, obviously. But if it doesn't, and I can connect this up, then people are actually going to utilize this. It's going to be a little trickier on this other side because we just have less space to work with, but it shouldn't be impossible. I just need to make sure that I'm actually connecting to the sky bridge. This isn't tall. There you go, 20 meters, that should connect. And then we're just gonna disable snapping and we'll kind of branch our way down. Yoink. It's gonna be interesting to see if people actually use it. So I really wanna hit play. Actually, let's just do that. Let's not wait too much anymore. We see an immediate jump in population, which makes sense. We've been adding lots of newly developed stuff. We should also see a jump in job counts as well with all this. So this is obviously just the entrance for the train station. It's gonna be, I really hope we can see someone make the crossing here. Oh my goodness, there you have it. That is the coolest thing I have seen in a while. That is so cool. And just look how dense things are getting down here. We're definitely gonna need to take a good walk of downtown sometime. We're gonna let downtown chill for a little while and move our focus to Lakeside, which is this big inner city area just on the other side of the train station. And I've been wanting to densify, especially the row of housing that is facing Queen's Passage for quite a while, and now is definitely the time with this new pack. We already have an empty lot here, and I imagine we'll get rid of some of this row housing as well to mix in more stuff. So let's just start by actually doing that. So I'm gonna rid myself of these 4 row house units, and then we'll grab some stuff from the northeast pack, of course. Let's see if we can find something suitable that is 4 tiles wide without being, you know, too dramatic. Oh, very nice, but also slightly dramatic. Maybe this one, actually, maybe is there something that's just a bit bigger? I think this one that's probably just a little too much. And how are we looking as far as, okay, so mixed use, that is where we're gonna grab something from, I think. This is just about the height I want, because I also have a very tall, big project planned out here that we'll get to in just a sec. We're just gonna start by filling in these areas. So how about this corner here? I might see if I can grab some residential for this one. Oh yes, this one is beautiful. And we'll just grab the level 5 version, get rid of the row housing, and see if I can align that perfectly. There you have it. Good additions. The coloring on this one is, wow, that is pretty crazy. I may try to, like, oh my goodness, that's not any better. Oh, whoa, that's pretty crazy. I'm gonna see if I can make that a little more boring. And there you go. I like the contrasting white. I think that looks great. And of course, it's awesome that as a mixed use, we're gonna have some tall fronts back here. I think I'm just gonna bring that back a little bit so that we have some sidewalk as well for all the shoppers. And then I think for this lot right here, this 2-tile wide lot we now have available after ruthlessly imminent domaining a couple of row houses. I might want to go for some southwestern stuff. Some of the more modern stuff could be a decent fit, or alternatively we could have, of course, just use this one in its place. But I was considering the more modern stuff, some high density. We've got these towers here, which I do quite like. So let's just get a modern, slightly modern development in between these 2 buildings. And then this is basically the lot where I have some major plans. So I'm probably gonna get rid of most of the row housing and this low density commercial unit or office, whatever that was. And then we're gonna go to China. We're gonna go residential, high density, and let's see, I don't even remember the lot size, but I think we're gonna start with a level 5. Is it this one? No, it's this one. I just gotta see how tall it is, of course. Okay, so this one is a little more subdued, while this one is a proper skyscraper, but I kind of want to use this one, to be honest, and create a bit of a dramatic look out here. We're just gonna place that and then maybe use one of the smaller siblings to kind of stitch together, and then we'll see how that actually looks. All right, so I'm gonna try and stitch this version into it like this. I'm wondering if we have something that is even lower. Ah, now I get it. The shorter version of this type of architecture, this building, is actually classified under medium buildings in the China pack, which makes a ton of sense. I didn't recall. So let's see if we can make this interesting. This is obviously a massive investment and development. So there's a developer here that's pretty certain that Fort John is worth the investment, and that the area on the other side of the train tracks is also going to heavily gentrify and revitalize. But generally speaking, I think it looks awesome. So what, you might ask, would the developer name this complex? Well, what about One Sterling Plaza? And then we have building A, B, and C. I think that sounds like luxury upscale living. You know the real estate agents would have a party on this one. And this high-rise has actually reminded me of a very specific little piece of detailing that I've been wanting to do for a long time in this downtown core. And it's probably gonna be easier if we just switch to nighttime. Have you guys guessed it yet? They've actually added these red warning lights to, you know, make the building stand out in case of incoming helicopter or flight traffic. And this is not really a feature of any of the vanilla skyscrapers, as well as most of the skyscrapers from other region packs as well, for whatever reason. But this is the perfect trigger for me to actually get done with that little bit of detailing. So we're gonna use the picker tool here to see if I can just grab the warning light 01. And it seems like there's like a slightly taller stick version of it as well. But just for starters, I'm gonna grab this version here and just get this placed on a bunch of the at least tallest skyscrapers here in Fort John. It's a small thing, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be all worth it when we take a little nighttime view afterwards, and I'm going to promise we're going to follow up with that. Also, as you guys can see, I'm letting the simulation run, and our population is experiencing a bit of a boom, so we should reach 80,000 in just a moment. But I'll get these placed. And before I show you guys the final result, I just discovered this bridge spotlight from PDX Mods. I think it's part of the custom bridges pack I have available. And I can't help but wonder how it would look if we try and illuminate the fantastic roof on this super historic yet unnamed skyscraper that we built early on in the episode. So I'm just gonna try and place these so that this light will shine on this beautiful roof at nighttime. I think they're actually always on. We just really can't see it when it's not nighttime. But it's going to be interesting to see how this looks. I'm just hoping I can make everything a little more special at night, because currently there's not anything to illuminate the roof on this building, which isn't a bad thing, but I just think we can maybe make it stand out a little more. Let's have a look. Oh, yes. Oh yes, it might be a little excessive. It's a little look at me, but I mean, if you look like this, it's okay. You can show off. And as for the red warning lights, I really think that looks fantastic. That is an amazing addition to the skyline. I know that it's a very small thing, and those of you that are regular viewers of my content will say, well, bro, you never show us any nighttime pics anyways. But maybe this is what was missing. I'll try and do my best to shoot some more nighttime cinematics, because honestly, this game is just fantastic looking at night. So it's something I don't utilize enough at all. All right, we're gonna turn on the lights again, and then I think it's time we speed things up a bit. So I'm gonna throw on some music, and then we're going to start detailing downtown a little more, as well as getting a few more buildings replaced, getting a lot of surfaces in place. And I also want to add both of these parks actually. And I think I have some ideas for how we can utilize some of the existing parks and kind of integrate them, because that is going to bring that attractiveness level that's going to bring people and tourists into the area. So let's get going. And this project was just as much fun as I'd expected, which is awesome. And this really is the best downtown I have ever created across Cities Skylines 1 and 2. And it's just so much more dense now. And to take a little tour, I especially like that the transition from downtown to the other inner city areas, such as Lakeside and Coleridge, in particular the Basement section of Coleridge, there's a much more gradual transition now. I mean, these areas on their own have a bit of a skyline now, especially with the addition of these Southwest themed towers out here at this redevelopment we did a couple of episodes ago. My reasoning, I just figured that now that downtown is much more dense and we have a massive new development out here, figured that a lot like this would probably prompt an even greater investment than the initial build we created. And I really like just stitching these together. I think we've now got across new region packs and across the urban promenades DLC, we now have plenty of buildings we can stitch together to create these modern redevelopments that you can see in just about every major city across the planet. And let's not forget the Oak Park redevelopment. So this is very much inspired by some of the many parks I visited in Manhattan a couple of years back, where you have pretty high rise development facing the park. It makes sense from like a land value perspective. But this time around, I didn't redevelop anything on this side of the park because I think that, you know, this side is not only facing the park and the recreational space, but it's also facing the bay and some pretty spectacular views. So I kind of angled the taller development towards King Street and not Butler Street. And then let's not forget that we've now got some actual parks in downtown. So this is currently named Central Park. Probably needs a new name, so if you've got something, then hit me up. And this is basically a combination of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 actual parks, just laid out in a bit of a maybe a weird configuration, but I honestly think it kind of works. And the cool thing, like I mentioned before I started the detailing, is that all these parks add actual attractiveness to the area and like recreational value. So it's actually a place where people, as well as homeless people, are gonna hang out. So I'm super happy with this build as well. And just look how busy downtown is. I mean, we've got an actual gridlock here. We've got an ambulance stuck in traffic, which is pretty morbid, but it also feels kind of realistic. So I'm super happy about just how buzzing it is. Oh, and let's not forget the park down here as well. Not really sure about this one quite yet, but I do like parks that have quite a bit of wilderness to them and isn't just manicured grass you can like lay on and read a book. And then the addition of these murals I think adds so much. I think this one is a bit of a better choice than this one because, you know, there's actually a bit of a garden out front of this building. And in this case, I mean, this one has been pretty painful to make due to all the windows you gotta avoid, so I'm not sure how realistic it is, but I just kind of like the scale of it. Now, all of this new stuff we've added, of course, functions perfectly in the actual simulation, so let's have a look at how this actually changed the makeup of the city. We started this development in late September, so around here. So let's just start with, as far as citizens go, we were in the 77,000, I think, and we're now at 83,000, which I think is a great development. I hadn't planned to add 6,000 more people to the city. And then as we move into the job count, we see a pretty hefty increase here as well. It looks like we've added 4,000 new positions, which is also pretty substantial for, you know, a redevelopment of an area that was already quite dense. So to wrap up, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and this save game is going to be available on Patreon relatively soon after publishing this video. So if that's something you'd be interested in, you can go and check that out. But the final thing to do now is wrap up with some final cinematics, and I imagine they're going to be pretty fun to shoot in this particular build. Hope to see you all in the next one. Goodbye.
but yes.